Dr Peter Tierney, lovely to have you alongside me. Senior research scientist with a PhD in sports science and a diploma in data analytics. You've worked with the likes of Leinster Rugby Club, with Chelsea Football Club, Lululemon in the corporate world, and also the FA. Let's focus this 15 minutes on exercise, and specifically midlife exercise, because I think there's plenty that we can probably learn from the sports world about how to do this better. I mean, one of the things that really strikes me, I suppose let's start here, is the fact that we are seeing so many more athletes go on and play on for longer than they ever have done before. Why is that?
Great question. I think it's actually fantastic to see, because it's, people maybe typically in some sports, basketball, football, rugby, would say, an athlete peaks at 25 and then when they hit 30, that's maybe the end of them. And then you look at somebody like Roger Federer, who played, was he 40 when he retired? Yeah. 41 maybe?
And
Rafa as well.
Novak.
And Novak, and they're playing, not just participating, they're competing and winning. You look at LeBron James in the NBA, he's still playing to
Ben Ainsley.
A top Ben Ainsley in sailing. So you do see this happening a little bit more. And I don't think it's like coincidence or chance. I do think these athletes have invested in themselves and they've looked after themselves, and they've earlier in their career probably maybe gotten away with some of the behaviors, like they can stay up later and they can recover faster. But I think maybe with the people around them, we can
all do that when we're younger.
Yeah, but maybe the people around them and I'm assuming they've got good people around them, that they've said, actually we've seen this, this can help with recovery, this can help with your sleep, and then that's actually helping to sort of slow down this sort of decay of their elite performance.
See, I think that's the fundamental point here. I think that they are so well supported. I think the athletes, and there's a financial point to that as well, I suspect, in that, you get to that particular level, you can afford also to have the right people around you that can give you the soundest advice, and that then all plays into this longevity piece. But for the rest of us, for the general population, as midlife approaches, and this is what I was discovering with Ben, he was getting better with age. And I was getting worse, considerably worse. So how can I stem the flow of this inevitable decline? And it sort of happens like that. So what can we do? What are the building blocks that people like me, people like you can put in place before that starts to go wrong? Yeah. And when does it start to go wrong? I heard it was 28.
I hope not, is it? I think it's really trying to raise your ceiling. So, I don't know if everybody here has seen this sort of photo. It's like an MRI scan of a triathlete at 70 years old and maybe sort of a sedentary person at the same age. And you can see the muscle composition of their legs. This triathlete is really lean, a lot of lean mass, muscle mass tissue. And then you look at the sedentary person, they have a lot of sort of fat mass and less lean mass. And we know that lean mass is related to function. So even, getting up and down off a chair, sort of helping with reducing frailty. So, reducing our risk of falls and the impact that can have. But I think we know now quite a bit about sort of the decay in performance. And I think a lot of that just comes with sort of the use it or lose it type of philosophy, in that if you're still active, so if you're running or cycling or swimming or whatever the sort of cardiovascular activity that you sort of partake in, and you're doing some sort of resistance training, that's going to help with lean mass or strength. And we also are seeing some evidence now that power is also can decay quicker, but also it's something you can train as well. So not just moving sort of heavy weights, but also doing that sort of quickly. So those pieces, if you do those throughout your whole life, I think you will notice that people don't sort of decay or deteriorate as quickly as possible. It sounds like a terrible word. It sounds like decay is probably not the right choice of word. But I do think you can definitely slow that down. And for me, I think I've summarized this before in that your lifespan is the sort of expected age that you live to. But within that, you have a health span. And that's sort of the age you can live to, but, whilst you can still enjoy your life and do all the things you need to do. And for me, everyone is going to pass at some point, and that's
Can you
the reality.
Extend that health span at any time?
Yeah, definitely.
Because if you were somebody that, say, wasn't necessarily, so much of being sporty or not being sporty comes from our school days, whether you made the sports team or anything like that. If you weren't that type of person, but you found exercise and fitness later in life because it's something that's come to you in that regard, whether it be doing Pilates or whatever it is. Like, can you get there at some point? Can you extend that health span man rather than sort of having always been a sporty person.
Definitely. You can just shift the curve sort of to the right, and we can try overlay a visual or something on that to help make it easier
I feel like we're both doing
see,
that.
but
physically we're both moving our hands.
But certainly,
right.
and I don't think anybody has to have played a sport to be healthy in life. And, I think you just have to find the activities and also the people in the environments that, are also doing those things. So
what is the definition of healthy? What's that? What is a what is a stereotypical healthy person?
For me, my sort of own definition, I don't know if this is the official one, would just be that you can perform your activities that you want to do in life for every day to a high level. And so that's health and performance. So if you're...
So high performers want to do that and then they want to do it and then some.
Yeah.
So how do they get the and then some bit?
Well, I just think it's through doing things and training. So, you see videos or photos of, there's an 80-year-old grandmother who's deadlifting 100 kilos because she has done that through her life. And so function is just that really important piece. But I do think you can pick it up at any age, and you can definitely decay that sort of like slowing down. You can slow that down. And so I think that's a really important piece for everybody to consider. And, athletes, I think, just have maybe gotten a higher ceiling from a younger age, but you can definitely start to do that at any point.
Can you talk to me about exercise snacking? Because I can't get my head around the idea of sort of spending my day thinking, okay, well, I'll do a 20-minute block here, and then later I'll do a 20-minute block there, and then I might do another 20-minute block at the end of the day. And I've sort of done an hour's session, but it's over the course of a day rather than all in one hit because I didn't have the time to diarize that in one hit. For me, that's a major head mess. I can't get my head around that. That just doesn't work for me. But does it work for people?
Yeah, so the exercise snacking is a really interesting one, in that you can't, particularly in lesser trained people, I think if you're on the elite end, you probably need a little bit more sustained intensity or duration in some things. But certainly from what we're seeing in the research is that you can snack on exercises. The one thing I'll say is that the snack needs to be somewhat intense. And intensity is relative. So your intensity might be different to my intensity or somebody else's, but it needs to be relatively intense. So something like a sprint. So some of the research has used cycling, but if you think of an office situation, it might be just like running up the stairs. And if you do that, throughout the day a couple of times, I think that has a really powerful impact. And there's a researcher who I know well, Dr. Brendan Egan, he sort of spoke about this active couch potato concept.
I love the idea of that. Tell me more about that.
Maybe something you shouldn't aspire to be. But he said, there's a lot of people nowadays who maybe go to a fitness class for 1 hour in the day, and then the rest of their day is completely sedentary.
Yeah.
And so
but for many people, that is work.
That is. So you obviously get the benefits from that, activity class, if it's CrossFit, Pilates, yoga, whatever it might be. But there's some research suggesting that the more active you are outside of your activity, that can actually help support the adaptation from the activity. And so if you've seen some of the visuals that I've shared, sometimes I'll refer to, weekly trying to achieve, maybe 5 hours of activity throughout the week, or 8,000 steps outside of exercise.
Yeah.
And the point of that is really to help people be active throughout the day. And however you want to break that up, if it's, 4 times really intense, if it's, 3 different walks throughout the day, I think those things can all contribute to one, just having a more active lifestyle. And we know that being active and also building muscle and being fitter and being stronger are related to, a lower mortality risk. So all of those things can play a part. And I think the thing for me is like, everyone has their preferences of activity types. Like I love doing a little bit of everything. I love running, cycling, swimming, gym, weightlifting. Some people don't. And so I just think people have to find the activity that they like. And that's why you see, I think, this rise in like popularity of pickleball and things like that, because they're really social, but they're also really active. And you get a little bit of, it's quite an agile sport. There's a cardiovascular component to it. There's probably some power elements to it as well. And I think for me, the recommendation would just be find some types of activities that you like. There might be some things you have to do that you don't. Some people don't
not burpees, for God's sake, not burpees.
No. Some people don't like going to the gym, but and there's other ways to achieve sort of, increases in muscle mass.
We talk a
bone
lot
density.
about the idea that, and we've spoken about this previously, you and I, but that this more is not always a thing either. I mean, especially in midlife, like, can you just like end up just doing way too much of a thing, as opposed to, like you saying, having a bit of a balance? I mean, professional athletes teach us that, and you will know this better than anyone, the sort of deep dive into the data analytics on that might be that actually running for that much of the game was not particularly helpful for you as an athlete and didn't contribute to the end game being particularly successful. So in that case, maybe less is more. Is there such a thing as that we can also apply to our lives as, people just looking for better performance on a daily basis? Maybe we don't need to be putting in hours upon hours upon hours in the gym, but doing things slightly differently.
Yeah, I think so. And
taking rest seriously.
Definitely. It depends on your goals, obviously. If you have some performance goals, particularly if it's, something endurance related, we do know that training volume is important. So, your weekly running distance is related to your performance to a point, and then there is a plateau, and that's where you then have to get a little bit smarter with, training intensity and distribution and things like that. But to a point, if you increase your training load, running, swimming, whatever it is, you should see improvements in fitness, whatever way you define that. So I think that is one thing, but it doesn't have to be this, 20 hours a week of, this excessive amount of activity. And so for me, I sometimes have this figure of like at least 5 hours of activity throughout, like intentional exercise. So not just strolling or walking. I like, for some people that might be, but I just mean intentional. So if it's a hike and you intentionally go somewhere, I think 5 hours at least a week should be achievable for most people. Because if you do break that down, that's 5 1-hour classes through the week. If people can't exercise every day throughout the week, that could be something longer on a weekend. But there is also some recent research suggesting that the frequency of exercise that you do, so i.e. training on 5 days of the week versus 3, actually has some benefit as well. So and
I guess an acknowledgement also that as you age, your exercise probably will and should change.
I think so, yeah. But often now you'll see that people get to a level where they can maintain that level of performance. And I think, again, it ties into the piece that we spoke about before, is like if they have the sleep and recovery to support that and the nutrition and the diet, like I don't see there's no real reason for people to have this sort of rapid slowing down of performance. So I think, if you can sustain the activity levels and you're training correctly and resting appropriately and recovering, I don't see why you can't make huge strides in fitness and improvement as you get older. And that's hopefully what I'll do. Try to delay that sort of slowing down as much as possible.
And I guess just being proactive about your own health and well-being. Exercise is part of that, isn't it? Definitely, it's all part of the same conversation. So finally, the single most important thing that we can learn from athletes about exercise.
I would say training consistency. And it is, again, it's the same sort of thing with sleep and recovery.
It's the mundanity, isn't it, that actually reaps rewards.
They will exercise in some capacity most days. They will obviously take recovery days and rest days, but, they're doing quite a lot. And they have good routines in place. Again, it's planned around maybe doing some resistance training in the morning and then some sort of running or cardiovascular training in the evening. And they'll just do that consistently over a long period of time. And often people want to see, really quick results in, strength improvements or, becoming a little bit leaner or fitter. But sometimes we overestimate the sort of acute response or benefit of a behavior or exercise, and we underestimate the longer term benefit. So for me, it's just, if you can put something in place, a routine, whether it's 3 times a week, 5 times a week, whatever type of class or activity you want to do, just stick to that for at least 6 months. And only then can you really say, okay, I might need to tweak something along the way or after that. But don't change something so quickly because you haven't seen a result in 1 week or 2 weeks, because you probably won't. And so I think that's the most important thing, is just have make short-term adjustments to your day, but have a sort of a medium-term goal in mind, and then get to that point and reflect. And I do think the piece around having people in your support network to help you along the way, whether that's some wearable technology, but more importantly, just some good people. So whether it's even just family or friends, but also some experts who can help you make decisions to get to that goal that you have.
What we all need is what you're saying, as a human performance team in our lives.
Yeah, to some extent. Yeah, to some extent. It mightn't be as big and as resourceful as an elite athlete, but just having people you can refer to, but it might just be friends. It might be a friend or family member keeping you accountable to going on your walk every day, or meeting you for a coffee outside, or going to a yoga class. So it doesn't have to be, everyone thinks support network and they immediately think, oh, I'm going to spend thousands every month to get these people. Well, no, like you can spend some money to have touch bases with those people, but also then, surround yourself with some people who, are interested in trying to improve their health as well. And I think that goes a long way.
Diarise your human performance team in your life, whatever they look like. Brilliant. Thanks, Peter.